Welcome to the North Shore Performance Podcast, where we take a deep dive into health and fitness for everyday people and the athlete in all of us. I am your host, Jake Wirtz, and with me is my best friend and co-host, Tanner Schenkel. Together, we take an honest look at fitness and discuss how anybody can improve their lives by adopting a healthy lifestyle. And welcome back to another edition of the North Shore Performance Podcast. I am here, Jake Wirtz, with Tanner Schenkel, and we're going to do another episode in our favorite exercise draft series. So, Tanner, what do we have today?
We have the tricep. This is the thing that makes your arms actually look big. For all you guys doing all those curls, the tricep is actually what matters. Everyone wants that horseshoe look. Makes the sleeve look small. That's not probably what I meant to say, but we're going to roll with it. It sounds right. But yeah, no, triceps is probably my favorite, like, arm, I guess, day thing. Like, I just never feel a good mind muscle connection with biceps. So triceps is definitely my favorite go-to. So pretty.
And also, I would say that triceps are kind of the more functional of the two. Like, there's more carryover in building big triceps and getting strong triceps into your other lifts, like your overhead press, your bench press, all those things. Your triceps are a huge part of that, right? I mean, it's a huge driver. When you fail on a bench, most people, it's their tricep that quits. It's not their pec, right?
Yeah, exactly. It has a lot of carryover. The tricep has a lot of secondary movement or secondary effect, and a lot of just lifting in general, where the bicep, I mean, it's more of a pretty muscle. It's kind of like abs, where there's not a lot of functionality to them. Obviously, your abs, it keeps you upright and whatever, it keeps you stable. But like, as far as like big abs, it's more of a cosmetic thing than just like biceps, where a tricep actually has some legitimate purpose.
That's right. So today, again, we're going to be doing another snake draft. And in this draft, I have the first pick. And so, that's the draft jingle for those of you who don't know. With the 101 like in the tricep, well, that's right, the master. With the 101, the first overall pick in the tricep draft, I am going to take, and this is a little bit of an overlap with our pec episode, I'm going to go with the tried and true, the number one tricep builder, dips. Now, this is not something that a lot of people will think of directly when they're thinking about building your triceps, but I would argue that it is the single best overall builder for your triceps out there. It's not an isolation movement, so maybe that's why some of the bodybuilder bros out there would disagree with me. A lot of people, they want to isolate the tricep. I think that the dip is the best because you can put a lot of load on it. You can use your body weight. You can even use more than your body weight. And you have to use your tricep to force your body up. It's a really functional movement, has a lot of carryover into your bench and your overhead press, like we just talked about. And I don't know, there's something about when you get really good at dips, your tricep will just pop. The overall size and strength of the muscle will just grow exponentially. What are your thoughts, Tanner?
No, I respect the pick. It's not where I was going to go with the 101, but I definitely see the value in it. I think you could arguably have gone either obviously your direction with the dips or with my pick here at 102. I'm going to go with close grip bench. What I like about both those movements between dips and close grip bench, it's more like, yeah, it's going to have tricep focus, but there's still a compound movement. So it's not, you're still working other body parts, where I always like to start my workout with a kind of compound movement, get blood flow going in kind of the general area you're working. I just feel like it's much better than starting with an isolation movement right away. So I kind of like both our strategies, kind of starting with that compound movement.
Yeah, and if you take a look at every draft that we've done, besides probably biceps, I think we've started each one with a compound movement. You know, I think you want to use those compound movements because you incorporate more muscles, more muscle fibers, more joints, and it's a better overall builder. Like, you're getting more bang for your buck. It's more efficient to do those exercises rather than the little small muscle exercises. And so I think it's really smart to start these workouts with the compound movement and then kind of go into those isolation, those little focus exercises where you can focus on really fine details. Like I just find that to be the most efficient way to do it.
Yeah, no, I agreed. I agree 100%. You kind of get the blood flowing, get warmed up with the compound, and then you just hammer out either volume or get that sick pump with the more isolation stuff.
Sick pump.
Heck yeah.
We need to get a sound bar, and one of the
We
sound
really
bars should just be like sick pump.
we really yeah, we gotta figure that out.
We
That's
gotta step our game up.
yeah. Um just
Your
think of
second pick. Your
the
second
second
pick.
pick. I am going to so kind of how I think of triceps. There's kind of three different movements to kind of hit all three heads. That's why it's called a tricep. Tri is the root word, right? I'm not a English major, but I think that's the correct terminology.
Clearly. Yeah, no one would confuse you with an English major, buddy. No, no offense.
Hey.
You are a communications major, though, aren't you?
No.
No?
Not even close.
Rip.
That hurt my feelings. I'm gonna go cry now.
Rip.
Anyways, so I like to do some kind of pressing motion, some kind of overhead like extension motion, and then some kind of like pull down or lower extension. So I kind of did the pressing motion with the close grip. I'm going to do kind of the OG movement that I think everyone, when you think of triceps, the first three movements you're going to think of, this is going to be one of them, and that's going to be the rope extension. The tricep, like pull down, push down, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same motion. You're using the ropes. However, I shout out to Jeff Nippard. I saw this video a couple years, probably
Jeff
4 or 5 years
Nips.
ago, and he took two of the ropes, made it so it's longer, so you get a far more range of motion. Because you really want, when you extend your tricep, if sometimes those ropes you only can get here, but with the longer rope, you get more of a full range of motion to get that last kind of squeeze on your triceps. So I like to take two ropes and you pull them down, and then you can get more of that full range of motion. So I will call this motion the long rope tri extension.
Okay.
Is what I'm going to
Yeah,
go
I
with.
think the tricep extension is really like you said, probably the first thing people think of when they think about doing triceps. It's probably the thing that you do when you're a high school kid in the weight room and your coach is telling you what to do for lifts and stuff. Because it's simple, it's easy, and you can feel it. You know, it's really easy to feel that mind muscle connection with your tricep. So it's a very simple exercise to start kids off with. Going back to your your close grip bench press, we talked about it a little bit, but that's another one that has a lot of carryover into your bench, obviously, because it's the bench. It's just a variation of it. So you can kind of, those exercises are really great for carrying over into the big exercises. But I really like the tricep extension as well. That's a classic. So with my second pick, I'm going to go with another big time tricep killer. And this was actually my number 2 lift on my board. So I'm really happy to get it here with the fourth pick, my second pick, and that would be skull crushers. This is a manly lift. This is a bro lift. I don't care. This is a great exercise. You can really load it heavy. You have to control it, obviously, or you will quite literally crush your skull. But there's a lot of different variations with this. You can do it with a straight bar. You can do it with an easy curl bar. You can do it kind of behind your head, get a more full range of motion, or you can do it literally down to your forehead and explode up. I think this is a great exercise for really isolating the triceps. And you have to be honest with yourself. You can't use more weight than you can do, or else you're gonna injure yourself.
Yeah, no, that's I was debating that with the rope tricep extension or skull crushers. You could make an argument for it being the number one too. I think there's
Yes.
kind of like there's a lot of great picks in the first probably 2 rounds of this draft, and then there's just a lot of good tricep movements out there. That you can make an argument for being first round selection, but that's why it's our draft and not anyone else's. So this is the order we're going with.
That's right. Okay, and with my third pick, so it's gonna be the 5th overall pick. Oh, let's see. I'm gonna go with the overhead tricep extension. Now you can do this with a cable. I'm probably gonna say let's do it with a cable for this one because we're gonna be specific with these draft picks. The overhead tricep cable extension, I think, is a really good movement. So if you look at my draft so far, we've got our big compound movement in the beginning with the dips, and then we've got our skull crusher. So that's where you kind of have your arms in front of you and you're pressing the weight, basically, you're flexing the weight up. I think it's also smart to try to mix in an exercise when you're hitting triceps for variation purposes, where you actually have a weight behind you and you're coming up. So with tricep push downs or pull downs like you had, you're in front of you. Same thing with skull crushers. I think it's really smart to get your arms or your elbows behind you and flex up towards the ceiling. So you're going to stand at a cable machine. You're going to have either a cable or something, or like a rope, kind of like what Tanner was talking about, attached to the cable machine. That's going to be behind you. You're going to grab it, step forward, and you're just going to flex that cable up. And you're just going to squeeze at the very top. Go down as far as you can, go down and back as far as you can, and flex it back up and try to go over your head. And that's a really nice stretch at the bottom. It's a very good contrast with the first two that I have. And I feel pretty good about that pick.
Yeah, no, that's a great pick. Yeah, I mean that's all I have to say to that. Like I think a lot of these we're going to go back and forth. Be like, yep, but I can see
There's
that
a
lip
lot
going
of
there.
great
It's
exercises. There's a lot of
yeah,
great tries. There's going to be ones that we'll have to mention at the end too, where like it didn't make sense for us to take it depending on what we've already taken.
yep,
But there's a few already that I'm like, oh, nobody's going to take that, and that's one of my favorite exercises. So
yep. I'm really happy you went a different direction. I was kind of worried you would snipe this pick because we could both kind of, I don't know. I really like this movement, and we talked about this tricep movement specifically a lot. It's going to be the like dumbbell rolling extension. We kind of start it more extended, putting your
yeah,
shoulders
yep,
and
I
extend out.
love that.
Yeah, that's one of my probably favorite one. I feel like you can really squeeze that contraction and you kind of overextend backwards. So it's like you overemphasize like the whole range of motion. You kind of you can take it from being just starting point here and you kind of have it more of this angle. So I feel like you get a much better stretch in the tricep.
It's very similar to the skull crusher, and that's ultimately why it's not something I would have taken later on. It's very similar to the skull crusher,
Yep.
except for the fact, obviously, with the bar, you're not going to go through your head. Like your skull is literally kind of a limitation when it comes to range of motion, unless you go behind your head. But with the dumbbells, like you said, you kind of stick your arms straight out like you would for a skull crusher, roll back until it hits your shoulders, and then you kind of roll your shoulders back and get that really deep stretch. And then you focus on firing it back up, flexing your tricep. And the thing I like about that, and a mistake a lot of people make with triceps, I think, is they're too rigid with it. Like they keep their arms exactly 90 degrees when they're doing a press down. Or, with skull crushers, they keep their arms exactly in the same position. No, if you kind of let the bar take you back, you kind of let the weight take you back, you're getting a great stretch there. And that actually means you have a greater range of motion. The further back you go, the further your arm has to flex to move the weight back to the starting position. So that kind of down and back, flexing it back up, you're getting a much better stretch and a fuller contraction at the top, in my opinion. So I feel like an exercise like the rolling dumbbell tricep extension is a great way to focus on that and really build the mind muscle connection.
Yeah, I agree. My next
I just
pick,
spent like a full 2 minutes just loving up on that exercise, and it's
yeah.
not one that I took, but that just shows you how many there are. I love that movement.
Yeah. My next one, so I kind of have most of these movements are you're doing either both arms at the same time or it's you're holding a bar. So I'm going to go some more kind of isolating one tricep at a time, and I'm going to do a tricep kickback. And I think I never really liked these per se, but I really found if you can take it instead of going straight back, you kind of have it more like a 45-degree angle when you kick it out. So instead of being here, you extend your shoulder almost at a 45-degree angle. And I feel like it really hits. I struggle with my tricep hitting the inner side. I feel like I hold a lot of fat here. And I feel like I can get a better squeeze there when I extend it out at that 35-degree angle. And then I kind of do like a 1 to 2 second like hold there at the end. I really have been starting to really like that for trying to hit the inner tricep there.
So, are you doing this exercise with a dumbbell or a cable? Or did you say? I'm sorry.
Depends on where I'm at. If I'm in my garage gym, it's gonna be a dumbbell. But if I'm at like a Y or a public gym, I like to do it with a cable. just because I can feel like I can control the contraction better with a cable versus a dumbbell. But depends on where I am. But I will do for draft purposes, I will do this with a dumbbell.
Okay, that makes it easy for me. Okay, so with my last two picks, I have some options here still. Like I said, there's a lot of great tricep exercises. We're trying not to get too much overlap with the exercises I've already taken. So that's the dips, the skull crushers, and the overhead cable extension. Okay, so I'm going to go with, and you just talked about it a little bit, but I'm going to take the cable kickback for very similar reasons to what you just said. I finish probably every tricep workout that I do, or I don't usually exercise strictly triceps, but anytime I am including triceps in my workout for that day, I almost always finish with cable kickbacks. You don't need a lot of weight, which is nice. And the thing I like about it compared to a dumbbell kickback, and you know this as well, is it's more of a constant tension. It's a lot smoother, it's easier to control, but you're feeling the tension the whole way through. And I really feel like this has really helped my triceps develop like that little horseshoe look that everybody talks about. And it's a great way to finish a workout. You don't need a lot of weight. You can get a lot of reps in. You can kind of even let the weight take your arm forward a little bit, like we just talked about. And then you kind of use your arm and flex it all the way back, and you kind of let it pull you back forward, and you flex it all the way back, and you get that full range of motion. You just squeeze at the very top, and it's incredible what that kind of contraction feels like at the top.
Yep, exactly. I feel like the triceps, a lot of these movements are you're trying to push as much blood into the area as possible, and then you also whatever's going to give you the most contraction to just again get that blood in the area. Is kind of the route I go. My favorite ones where I can really feel that mind muscle connection are the ones that I'm tend to be drafting here. So I mean, when you think about it, it's pretty easy to understand, but there's so many tricep movements out there, and there's so many like arm day gurus or bodybuilders that you do a certain movement this way. So everyone's got their five, you could say, but I think whatever works best for you and you can get that contraction, that's the route you got to go. So
Yeah, and these are all highly individual, like we said. I think we talked about that quite a bit with the bicep exercise video. Like we each have exercises like I was making fun of you for the hammer curls, and you're making fun of me for the supinated curls, but it's like really whatever you feel, whatever you have the easiest time connecting with that muscle fiber, that's what you need to do. And you can practice the other things. Like I need to practice certain exercises as well. And but you always come back to those few that you feel the most benefit with, the most connection with, and that's fine. I think that's very normal to do.
yeah, I agree.
So with my last pick, the ninth overall pick in the tricep draft, I am going to take the floor press. So we're going to go back the other direction. We just did a couple of isolation exercises for triceps. We're going to go back the other direction and do more of a functional, like strength building movement. This is probably something I would do earlier in a workout, like we talked about dips. This might be like the second or third thing I do on a chest and triceps kind of a day. So basically, you lay on the floor, usually in a squat rack, and you have the bar over your face, just like you would with a bench. You unrack it, and you go down just like you would the bench. But obviously, your elbows are going to touch the floor before you can get all the way down to your chest, unless you're one of these short arm, big barrel chested monsters out there. Okay, and we know we're looking at you guys. We respect you, but most people like Tanner, especially because he's got longer arms, his arms are going to touch, his elbow is going to touch the ground way before the bar gets to his chest. And so what that does is it takes the pecs out of the movement, just like you would for your bench. When you get down towards the bottom, that's your pecs, and once you get out of that little range right above your pecs, your triceps take over, and it kind of finishes the rep for you. Well, you're basically taking that part out of it. And so what you're doing is you bring the bar all the way down to the floor till your elbows hit the floor, and you kind of rest there for a second, a half second, whatever it takes for that weight to kind of to lose its momentum and kind of sit still. And then you use your triceps to fire that back up. So you're basically doing half reps on a bench, but it looks way cooler and you can do a lot of weight. So there is that. But I think the floor press is a very underrated, underutilized exercise for triceps. Again, it's not an isolation movement, so that probably has a lot to do with it. But if you're somebody who is a bench presser and your sticking point is your triceps, and that always kills you in your meet, you always have a problem with your lockout. really start to get after these floor presses. Do some heavy triples, see how much weight you can push. It's a pretty safe exercise as well. I find that to be a very safe exercise. You can do quite a few of them, and I don't feel like it takes, I don't feel like your body takes as big of a beating. But yeah, floor press, that's what I'm going to finish out with, and I feel pretty good about that one.
I like that. I like you kind of came back to a compound more strength exercise. Yeah, I respect it. I didn't have floor press on my board, and I'm kind of feeling foolish. I'm going to end it with kind of an overhead movement. And it's going to be, I don't know exactly what you're going to call this thing. I kind of call it something different every time I bring it up. But you're essentially going to take that like bar with a peak. I like to take that
Yes.
and grab it so my palms are facing my face. So like with a reverse grip, and you go over your head and you extend out. And I feel like this gives me a nice range of motion because the way you're facing your triceps are you're elongating them when you extend it out. Whereas if you're doing a push down, it's more kind of like a shorter range of motion. I feel like that really kind of gets a nice stretch on them. And that's what I'm going to end mine with. And I'm going to call it reverse grip overhead extension.
I like it. Just unique enough to confuse the influencers. I like it.
Well, exactly. You got to keep those like, what do you call it? Those SARMs goblins. You got to keep them confused because they don't understand all our
Those
terminology.
those broccoli-headed SARMs goblins.
And
What
if
is with
you're,
that, by the way? Everybody that generation has the same haircut now. And I
yeah,
understand we're attacking our target audience right now. But what is with this? This curly hair, you have one earring, it's a little cross, your little SARS goblins with your cutoffs, tank tops, and it's like, brother, y'all look exactly the same. You're generic as hell.
Caleb Lens.
We love you, but explain the look. We don't get it. I mean, we're two old guys, and you're lucky if I'm not wearing a hat when I go to the gym, so I don't have time to curl my hair like
Yeah, they all got that foopy haircut, and it's like
that.
always getting in their face and stuff. My nephews both have it, and they're like running on the basketball court, and they're like
Just
trying
flops
to keep it
around.
out. I'm like, this just looks ridiculous.
Just put a headband on. Yeah.
But that's also I said that. I'm like, you guys should get headbands. That'd be sweet. I would respect that. But I'm the
Do you
weird
have
uncle.
do you
So
have any honorable mentions you'd like to throw out there, just as a, hey, I didn't take this. This is why, but like it's still a great exercise.
yeah, I mean I have a couple. I really like to do I don't have a dip rack or dip bar at my garage gym. So what I like to do is kind of do like a body weight dip um, and do it for like a super high amount of reps. So you just go on
On
like a
like a
bench.
bench.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
bench
like to
dip.
do that as like a finisher on triceps. So I had that, but you took dips. So I'm like I don't know. I didn't really go that route. I also like to take like single arm, like if you have a single rope, or you could do like a longer rope, you can just pull it down through like the metal hole or loop or whatever. But some gyms will have just like a single shorter rope. And I like to do just single arm tricep extensions and kind of do stuff like that. I mean, you could do I don't know what they're called. Essentially, they're like skull crushers, but you're doing dumbbells, but you're more like pushing out this way.
Hmm.
There's just so many movements I've seen where it's like everyone calls them something different, so it's kind of hard to
Yeah,
like
that's fair.
say. But there's so many different movements I've done ever since I've lifted that they're
Can uh
really
can you
solid.
can you explain the JM press for those people who might not be familiar?
I think all you do is you like fold in here and press out, don't you? It's almost like I don't know. Every time I hear it explained, I think of the movement something different. So
Yeah, I have a hard time explaining it as well, but it's essentially kind of like a mix between a close grip bench and a skull crusher, if that makes sense. So basically, I mean, you're benching, and a lot of times that people do this with like a Smith machine because it's easier. You're probably not going to drop it on your face, and you kind of take it close grip, you bring it down really, really close, and you kind of flare your elbows out and use your elbows to kind of flex it back up. I believe that's the basic mechanic of a JM press.
that makes sense. That sounds right. But
So
I mean that's
another honorable mention
yeah.
for me is a tricep press down, which is very similar to the tricep extension, except you have a little bar in front of you and you press down with it. I think there's a slight difference because instead of having the cable, that's more of a individual, like it's an isolation exercise in a sense, because both triceps have to work and fire independently. Whenever you incorporate a bar into it and both arms can kind of work together, you can use a little bit more weight. So I like that a little bit better than just a regular tricep extension personally. I would say I do that one more frequently. But yeah, that's probably my only other honorable mention. You kind of took the other two, so
Yeah. Yeah, I like we keep saying, like there's lots of tricep movements out there. Find something that you can feel like you get a good mind and muscle connection, good contraction on, and roll with it and try something that like just try different stuff every now and then, but try to like do like two movements that are like tried and true and work, and then throw something else in there, kind of that muscle confusion kind of thing. But I don't know, just give them a shot. Triceps are fun to work, and people have some crazy different movements out there, but
yep.
they're all extensions of some nature or a press of some nature, if you break it down to the core. So
Absolutely. So we'll go ahead and summarize our drafts here. So I got the dips, then the skull crushers, the overhead tricep extensions, cable kickbacks, and the floor press. Those are my five, the superior five.
and then the way better programmed, better pump giver.
Wait. Way spelled Whey. Way better.
Well, yeah, I didn't have to explain that. Our listeners understand gym
Yeah, I'm
moves
sorry. I didn't mean to
and
do that
gym
to you
pumps.
guys.
Gosh, act like they're stupid. Slap my head. My five is close grip bench, long rope tricep extensions, rolling dumbbell tricep extension, tricep kickbacks with a dumbbell, and reverse grip overhead tricep extensions.
Yep. So that's going to wrap it up for us today, guys. Leave a like, a comment, subscribe, tell somebody about our podcast. We're growing and we're learning every time we do this, so we have a lot of fun doing this. But thank you guys for joining us, and always remember,
No excuses.
no regrets. Bye.
Bye.